Hello everyone and welcome to Plot Twists. So I'm super excited for today's video. I created an original tag based on my March must-read March. So it is called the must-read March tag. It has 7 questions and I'm super excited. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first question is, what is a 5-star prediction on your TBR shelf? For this question, I'm going to talk about City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, maybe? This is an adult fantasy novel that is set in Cairo. I know that this has a lot of magic and intrigue. I know everybody that I've heard talk about it loves it, which is why I picked it up, and I really think I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm hoping to pick this up soon. Question number 2, what book are you most anticipating reading? Anticipated pickup is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is a YA fantasy novel. Similarly to City of Brass, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I know that there are some people who have not enjoyed it as much, but I think based on the booktubers I've seen and the other kinds of books they like, I think I'm going to fall in the portion that really enjoyed this book. So I'm hoping to get to this soon as well. Question number 3, what book most recently made you super happy and or cry happy tears? I know not everybody gets that emotional over books, and I wanted this question to be more accessible. But the book I want to talk about today is House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Cloon. This book made me cry for probably the last 100 pages. It was so sweet, and I've talked about this in my February wrap-up, but any excuse to talk more about this book is exceptional. This book centers around a kind of magical social worker named Linus, who is sent to check on the magical home for the most dangerous magical children in this world. And the kids in this book are so good. And the way that they're presented is extremely relatable. As a psychologist, there's a lot of kids I work with who are easily kind of put off for their behavior or for some sort of trauma they've experienced in the past that causes them to act out. And it's very easy to start seeing them as a behavior difficulty as opposed to a child. And I really liked the way it was addressed in this book, because the caretaker for this particular home is constantly reminding Linus, the social worker in this book, you know, they're just kids. You have to remember that, you know, they're a product of their environment and things are getting better. And I don't know, it just warmed my heart. By the end of the book, there's some plot twists that unfold that just had me bawling. It's so beautiful. If you have not picked this up, I highly recommend it. I would say that fantasy is still probably the most prevalent. I would say that either fantasy or sci-fi is my favorite. So I would say that the most prevalent book on my TBR shelf is probably my favorite. Question number 5. Do you tend to read super popular books from YouTube? And if yes, name one that you found was worth the hype. I would say sometimes I read super popular books from booktube. It kind of depends. I am more inclined to read something if everybody's talking about how good it is, but I also think it needs to be a topic that somewhat interests me. For example, booktube is definitely the reason why I read the ACOTAR series, and I have really enjoyed that. I would say, in my opinion, it's worth the hype, but I can understand why it might not be for everybody. It's definitely a niche kind of series, but I also think it's pretty much accessible it's accessible in terms of fantasy to anybody. Not all fantasy, I feel like, is. Sometimes fantasy can be pretty harsh in terms of there might be a crazy magic system or something that's hard to follow in the world. But I don't feel that way with ACOTAR. If you're looking for a place to start with fantasy, this is usually my recommendation. Number 6, what book from your shelves have you read the most? So I rarely reread books. So I would say there is a particular book that I tend to reread frequently, though, and that is The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. This has to be my most read book from my shelves. I fell in love with this book and Nicholas Sparks in general when I was 16. That's the first time I read it, and probably since then I've reread it 5+ times. It's probably my go-to reread. Yeah. And then question number 7, recommend a book you loved. I think right now I want to recommend the Scythe Trilogy by Neil Schusterman. This series takes place in a world in which there's kind of a sentient robot that kind of takes care of all of society. It is all-seeing, all-knowing for the most part, and this particular society is also advanced to the point where people no longer die of natural causes. Actually, people no longer die in this society for the most part. So to cope with the growing population, this society has created these people that they call Scythes. Scythes exist outside of this sentient robot kind of overlooking everything. And their job is to decide who and how which people get killed. It very much has a like moral versus amoral theme going throughout the books. The characters are super interesting. The different Scythes and the sheer like separation difference between some of their philosophies is really fascinating. If you have not picked up the series yet, I highly recommend it. And that concludes my tag. So down below, I will be tagging a handful of booktubers that I hope will participate as well. But I'm tagging anybody. If you think this sounds fun, please do it and send it to me because I would love to watch. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe, and look forward to more bookish content coming soon. Bye!